Good afternoon, councillors. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Mirrabul Shire Council Ordinary Council meeting for Wednesday the 1st of March. Councillors, I'll open the meeting with the opening prayer. Almighty God, be with us as we work for the people of the Shire of Mirrabul. Grant us wisdom that we may care for the Shire as two stewards of your creation. May we be aware of the great responsibilities placed upon us. Help us to be just in all our dealings, and may our work prosper for the good of all. Amen. Acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. Councillors, in accordance with the Mirrabul Shire Council meeting procedures local law, the Council will be recording this meeting, and the following organisations have also been granted permission to make an audio recording: the Mirrabul News and the Star Weekly. Councillors, we have 6 councillors present, and at this stage it's apologies from Councillor David Edwards. Councillors, the minutes from our ordinary meeting of Council on Wednesday the 1st of February 2023 have been circulated. Moved Councillor Berry, seconded Councillor Minari. All councillors in favour? Carried. Councillors, I ask if...
I'm up to this end. I just note that there was a request at the last meeting that that be noted that there was no opportunity to debate the matter. Only it wasn't put in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Noted. Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor, item 7 is disclosures of conflicts of interest. Councillors, I ask if there's any conflicts of interest for tonight's meeting. No? Thank you. Okay, item 8 is public question time. Councillors, we have 2 questions. And question 1, I will look to my right and ask our Executive Manager, Celeste Gregory, to read out the question and response.
Thank you, Chair. The question is from Mr Kowalski in relation to, can Council please ensure me that if it is satisfied with the February 2023 governance rules pertaining to the election of the Mayor process, as revised as it is in the 2023 meeting? And the response is, the February 2023 governance rules included an appendix for the election of the Mayor, which was inadvertently omitted from a previous version. Council appreciates Mr Kowalski highlighting this as we review the governance rules at a minimum annually.
Thank you. Councillors, we have a second question, and I will look to General Manager, Community Assets and Infrastructure, Mr Phil Jeffrey, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Question number 2 is, can Council please provide an update on its timetable for the construction of the pedestrian refuge to Mill Park across Simpson Street as recommended in the 2020 road safety audit? And the response is, the construction of the pedestrian refuge is part of a multi-stage upgrade at Mill Park. The refuge was originally included in the civil works at the site but was removed from that contract. Council is currently seeking quotes for landscaping to complete construction of the recently constructed skate park and basketball court, and includes final civil works to complete the footpath network, including the pedestrian refuge. It is anticipated works will commence in May, but is subject to contractor availability.
Thank you, Mr Jeffrey. Councillors, that concludes public question time. Item number 9 on the agenda, councillors, is petitions, of which there are nil. And item number 10 is presentations and deputation, again, of which there is nil. Councillors, item number 11 on the agenda is the Chief Executive Officer's reports. Item 11.1 is the proposed sale of land, 8 Bond Street, Mattingley. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Looking to you, councillors.
I just have a question, if I may.
Question from Councillor Sullivan.
Just going back, the trigger for this land sale was the property owner to the north was seeking to do some development, and this strip of land vesting in council existed between Park Street and the property that those applicants had. Has any consideration just been given to declaring this a public highway and sort of not having to go to this expense of having it valued and all this time and time?
Mr Bazudinhoud?
So can I just get that last part of the question, James?
The question is, the trigger for this, as I said, comes back to a planning application to the property to the north. That was the catalyst that caused this. I'm sort of thinking, given that it's only less than 23 square metres of ground, to expedite it, wouldn't it be better just to declare it a public highway, call it a road?
Mr. Mayor, as part of the referral process, it was referred to all departments. It wasn't identified that there's a need for road. And secondly, I think it's a better outcome by consolidating into the development proposal itself. It creates a better development outcome, and it's a better configured site as well if it gets incorporated into the development.
Mr Mayor, if I may.
Please.
I guess where I was coming from is the cost in all this and the benefit the council's going to get out of it would be cheaper just to declare it a road. I understand all that what Mr Bazuna had said, but from a cost point of view, it would have been just cleaner and clearer just to call it nominated road.
Mr CEO, or no, Councillor Tatchell.
Oh, do you want to answer Councillor Sullivan's question first, or?
Mr CEO.
I suppose it goes with what Mr. Bosen had said. It was when it was considered. To be honest with you, that wasn't necessarily considered to be an option at that moment in time, and the officers proceeded down this particular track as I understand, the size of the land here is very different, but if it was a normal transaction, that's what we would do. But there's no doubt the size does make this one a little bit different.
Mr Bazuna.
And I think we also might need to go back then and look at the permit which has been issued, which has got a specific condition. That means we'll have to go back and revisit or amend that permit, and that can only be done through consent with the landowner.
Thank you. Councillor Tatchell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll shine some more light on it if you like. Ultimately, there was a permit in to build a building there, and then since then, because of this land problem, where they couldn't get the permit because of this parcel of land, or this section of land, there was also a power pole there, and the power people wouldn't sign off this much land, if you like. So it had to come back to council through this process that basically has taken nearly 2 years. And it had Powercore signed off on the pole in the beginning because it was encroaching on this piece of guttering, if you like. None of this would have happened. So I think you're dead right, Councillor Sullivan. I think the complication here was more Powercore and what their view was and what they wouldn't do, and forced us into this position. So I'll move it, if you like, if that's all right.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. So, Councillor, we have a mover for the recommendation 11.1. Seconded, Councillor Dudzik. Councillors, any objections? All in favour? Carried. Councillors, item 11.2 is the proposed discontinuance of a portion of road known as Settlement Road, Elaine. And councillors, we have a speaker. I would invite Mr Dunn. Mr Dunn to take the chair. And Mr Dunn, please press the button on the microphone and you have the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Council. This process began 5 years, 3 months ago, and I was only notified 48 hours ago of a council meeting tonight and that some submissions had been made against my proposal. So I'm asking council to defer the motion until a further meeting tonight, until I've had been given enough time to adequately prepare a response. I don't think 48 hours is enough time.
Thank you, Mr Dunn. Councillors, any questions for Mr Dunn? Councillor Tatchell.
G'day, how are you?
Good.
Are you aware of the recommendation?
No, the objections have been summarised in one sentence lines, and I've been denied access to them, Councillor Tatchell.
Please continue, Councillor Tatchell.
Thank you. So I assume that you're an objector to?
No, I'm the applicant.
Right. All right. Do you want to have a look at what the recommendation was?
I've seen the recommendations,
okay.
Paul, but
Sorry.
yeah, just haven't had enough time to talk to councillors about it and prepare a dossier in response to the very brief submissions that have been made by the objectors.
But just to clarity, Mr Dunn, you are asking for this matter to be deferred?
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor Minari. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tetzel, no further questions?
Thanks, Mark.
Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question for officers. Was Mr Dunn made aware of the community consultation that was sought with the 4 points on the document?
Through the chair, yes, Mr Dunn was made aware of the consultation.
Order. Can I just say that, yeah, I was amazed. The consultation
Mr
finished.
Mr Dunn, just excuse me at the moment, you haven't got the floor. I'll go back to Councillor Minari, and Celeste, you wanted to continue to respond to the question? That's right. Councillor Minari, any further questions?
One other question. And the date of that community consultation, roughly?
It was in November last year, roughly.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions for Mr Dunn? Councillors, we have a recommendation, councillors, but there's also been an ultimate recommendation that has been put up that council resolves to defer now. We have to vote initially to receive this ultimate recommendation before we can vote on the motion. So, councillors, would anyone be prepared to vote to receive the alternate motion?
I would do so, Mr Mayor. I think that, you know, council has been always quite generous in allowing people, if they ask for a deferral, to do that. So I think that would be a fair thing to do.
So, Councillor Sullivan has moved to move the ultimate recommendation be received. Councillor Berry?
I'm happy to
second it.
that.
All in favour? Carried. Councillors, we have an ultimate recommendation that council resolves to defer the item to a future ordinary council meeting.
So
Moved.
Councillor Dudzik? Seconded Councillor Sullivan. All in favour?
thank you.
Thank you. Motion carried. Item deferred. Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. On the basis that Mr Dunn's come all the way in here, maybe we could show him the alternative.
Yep, thank you.
It might save us some time at the next meeting.
Thank you.
So, thanks, mate.
That wasn't.
The motion that's been, the motion was just to defer it.
Yeah, the motion's to defer.
I always think if I ask you to get away with it.
Councillors, item 11.3 is the proposed discontinuance of a portion of Government Road, Howards Road Navigators. Again, councillors, we have a speaker, and I'll invite Mr Liam Rawdon to speak, please.
Good evening, everybody. I wish to thank the council for allowing us to speak to this item tonight. We've been on a long journey to get to tonight's meeting. I wish to acknowledge the efforts that Ewan from the Traffic Department of Council have put in with us to move through this process, and also Celeste for assisting us with the public consultation as well as governance through council. A little about Boral Dunstown is that Boral has a proud history on this site. We've been here since 1981, but the quarry has a longer history and has been around since around 1978. It employs 45 full-time employees and supports many more local contractors in the area. It produces around 1 million tonnes of construction materials per annum, and it provides a high-grade quality material which goes into all the road construction, manufacture of asphalt, and also concrete within the local municipalities and surrounding districts. Roughly speaking, we have around 3 years' worth of reserve left, and that ultimately forms the basis and the nexus for why we're looking to discontinue Howards Road. With respect to the financial matters of the business, we approximately spent $6.7 million on local expenditure for workforce services and local suppliers in FY21. The site contributes around $170,000 in rates per year, and we also, in the last 12 months, have donated around over $20,000 to the local community. I'll just take you over the page to number 2 on page 3, which will just be the heading proposed purpose of discontinuance. As you would have been briefed by Celeste and others during this process, the purpose of discontinuing Howards Road is ultimately sought due to future expansion plans of Boral to proceed into the land south of Howards Road. Ultimately, we seek to upgrade Hewittson's Road along the western boundary, which is currently a road reserve, but it's unmade at the current time. And as you can see in that image there, the blue represents a partly made bit of the road, and ultimately the yellow section there in that image represents the part that Boral will continue down. If I just take you over the page then to why close Howards Road. Main thrust for us in closing Howards Road is about the safety of the community, but also our own staff. If Howards Road was to remain, there'd be a need to cross Howards Road with quarry vehicles, and that's both light traffic and also heavy vehicles, because they would need to go between the two quarry pits. Ultimately, from our perspective, closing the road means that there's a single enclosed workplace. There's no need for the quarry traffic to interact with the broader public, and all traffic will continue out Dunstan-Yedden Road in the same manner that it does now. For us as a workplace, one of the key things we're committed to is safety, and that's both our own employees but also the broader community. And that really is the genesis of why we're needing to advance this through the council. If I just take you over the page to what are the proposed benefits. Apart from the matters that I just mentioned there about public safety and sort of some of the more operational things around blasting and the like of the activities with quarrying, there are also some improvements to the local road network, and I outline at 3 there that there'll be a straight connection provided through, whereas at the moment Howards Road onto Ditchfield Road North provides a bit of a dog leg to get down to the bottom part. So by upgrading Hewittson's Road, there will be some better connections for the community to proceed down south. Much the same, the new and improved access will also be provided for abutting properties along the alignment should they be needed. If I take you over the page now to, I suppose, the heading that just says, is the quarry encouraged south of Howards Road? This is probably less to do with the actual discontinuance matter that we have before us tonight, but ultimately in terms of Boral's plans and the broader picture, the reason why we're proceeding south is that it's located within the Special Use Zone Schedule 2, and as I've just outlined in that dot point there, one of the key purposes is to recognise or provide for the use of development of the land for earth and energy resource industry, which in a formal sense in the planning scheme is a quarry. So ultimately, from our perspective, the encouragement is to move south, and what we're wanting to do is move south in the safest manner possible. If I take you just over to the last part that I'll address, which are the community submissions, which I'm sure you've had a chance to read. Ultimately, we note that with the work of Celeste, that 2 of the submissions have been tentatively withdrawn if Hewittson's Road is to be upgraded and the motion is carried. From our perspective, there's obviously been the formal consultation carried out through the council, but we've also gone and met with the neighbours who are most directly affected, as well as consulted with the community reference group, which we set up circa start of 2022. And generally speaking, the feedback that we've received from all of those community contacts, we've had individual contact ourselves, is that the upgrade of Hewitson Road is an appropriate situation for closing Howards Road. So on that basis, look, we therefore accept the council's motion to discontinue as outlined within the recommendation, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr Royd, and councillors. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr Reardon, your existing works licence or approval, it doesn't cover the whole of the SUZ2 zone, does it?
So we have a works authority, and it does cover the boundaries of the special use zone as shown within the slide pack. What we don't have a formal approval for at the moment is to continue south into that area through the stages. So we can't extract within that area, but the land is technically within our work authority.
So your current border for your works area is the Howards Road?
It's north of Howards Road, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, any further questions for Mr Royden? No? Thank you very much. Councillors, I'm in your hands. We have a recommendation in front of you, councillors. Any further discussion, or anyone like to move the motion?
I'll move the recommendation on the business paper, Mr Mayor. Oh, sorry, is there a question?
A motion moved, Councillor Sullivan. Seconded, Councillor Tatchell. Any objections? No objections. All in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, we'll move to item 12, which is the Community Planning and Economic Development reports. Item 12.1 is the enforcement policy. Councillors, we have a recommendation, but I also note, councillors, that we have an ultimate recommendation in front of us. Councillor Edwards, would you like to talk on the ultimate recommendation, please? And then councillors can vote on whether they accept it and move forward.
Point of order. If we have a motion there formed by officers, if Councillor Edwards wishes to move an alternate recommendation, we don't have to go through a process of accepting the alternate recommendation, surely.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Sullivan. I was advised we have to vote to accept the alternate recommendation before we vote on the alternate recommendation.
You sure?
Ultimate motion. My apologies. So we have an alternate motion, Councillor Edwards. I'll invite you to speak on it.
Yeah. So just in brief, councillors, it's some very minor changes. I just want to confirm within the policy that we don't just take the immediate enforcement up the top, that we actually use a graduated approach. We start at the bottom and work our way up. That's as simple as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second.
Second it. Councillors, any objections? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, item 13.1 is the advisory committees of reports from council. We have the Lalal Falls Advisory Committee minutes from the meeting Thursday, the 1st of September 2022, and we have a recommendation, councillors.
I move that the recommendation on page 25 be received.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Seconded, Councillor Minari. Any objections? All in favour? Carried. Item 13.2 is the Community Asset Committee reports from the Blacksmiths Cottage and Forge Community Asset Committee from the meetings 27th September 2022, 25th of October 2022 and the 15th of November 2022. We have a recommendation, councillors. Move Councillor Minari, seconded Councillor Edwards. Any objections? All in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 14.1 is the December 2022 quarterly financial report. Again, councillors, we have a recommendation. Councillor Sullivan?
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Sullivan. Seconded Councillor Edwards. Any objections? All in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 14.2 is the finance policy update. Again, councillors, we have recommendations.
Just a question, if I may.
Councillor Sullivan.
Given this is a policy, don't we sort of go out for community consultation input into a policy before we finally adopt it?
Mr. CEO.
Yeah, through the chair, I think historically with these policies, because they're internal, we take them through the ARC, which is the audit committee, and we receive feedback through the audit committee. So we haven't historically left them rest on a table for feedback previously. Yeah. So we use the ARC as that because they're the experts in it. Okay.
Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I suppose I have a question that may end up in a request. I noted through our finance policy that we still continue to not have any regulations over our fees and charges, so they're not covered under the so-called fair go tax or fair go rates state government business. I suppose I haven't seen a report since we put that in place some years ago to have some indication on what those costs have done in terms of percentages per year and on how they've risen and how they affect the business in total. And I know that part of this will be part of economic development strategy as well, but I'd like to see what the actual the ranges that we've been through in terms of by not having a ceiling on it, Is it under control? I mean, I know at the time it was all done in good faith that we want to maintain our the costs of these things in terms of when someone puts a permit in or whatever happens. And that's the reason why we didn't put a ceiling on it, because our costs were continually rising. But I just want to know if we're still in that space. I'd like to see that report. I don't know about. I remember at the time Councillor Sullivan put a very good argument up as to why we did it, and I'd just like to see what the result of that is and whether we need to continue to do that, or should we fall back in line and put a ceiling on it, on their fees and charges.
Okay, just for clarity then, so we're all on one page. The essence of the question is that officers prepare a report advising on Mr. CEO?
Through the Chair, no, I think I understood what Councillor Tatchell is referring to. I think we'd be very happy to do that. So generally speaking, we do try and do the benchmarking exercise on an annual basis as well as that cost recovery basis, which is what you're referring to. So more than happy to bring that back to Council, but to ensure, Councillor Tatchell, that we do a broad benchmarking exercise as well, and where they're noticeably different than neighbouring councils, we do take a report to council that shows fees that are going up above CPI, and below CPI. So we try and present it that way.
Subsequent, Councillor Tatchell.
Question. Yeah, and I understand where the CEO is coming from in terms of the benchmarking. I suppose my real concern is that it's been some years now since we knew we had to open the cap up. Because we were lagging so far behind in terms of costs. So I'd like to see where we're sitting, forgetting the benchmark from where we started at a zero balance to where we sit today, and whether it's still acceptable in today's market, whether we're still on, whether we should continue that. I think it's very prevalent coming up the budget time that we have a handle on these things.
Yep. Thank you. To the Chair, happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor Edwards.
I was just going to move the recommendation, Mr Mayor. With a question, if I may.
Yes, please.
I just want to confirm, because I was a little bit confused. Did the report actually stated that we actually did go out for community consultation? I just want to check if that's right.
Yeah, I've actually just double checked. It was actually received, so it was on our SAY platform for a period. So it did sit, but it wasn't. So it was sitting on our SAY platform for a period of time. Yes, it did. Yes, so it did sit on our electronic platform for a period, asking to provide feedback.
Move, Mr Mayor.
We didn't get any feedback. I can inform.
Move, Councillor Edwards. Second to Councillor Tatchell. Councillors, any objections? All in favour? Carried. Councillors, item 15.1 is the Capital Improvement Program Quarterly Report for December 2022. Councillors, we have a recommendation.
So moved.
Moved Councillor Dudzik. Second to Councillor Tatchell. Any objections, councillors? Question, Councillor Sullivan.
I'm looking at page 66 of the attachment, and this relates to Macrae Street Madley drainage renewal. It says it's completed, but it has a red thing. Does that mean it went right over budget or not?
Mr Jeffrey.
Page 66 of our report.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I completely missed the question.
Oh, sorry. On page 66 of the documentation, it says Macrae Street Madley drainage renewal of stormwater on Macrae Street from Griffiths to Lavillier Street. Project's completed, and says it's completed. You just got a red dot. So that's went over budget, I'm assuming. Is that it, or?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, that was over budget. And I don't have exact detail, but I think it was mainly to do with service relocations that we had to do during the project.
Supplementary question.
Please.
What would be the threshold at which we would say it goes over budget? Are they to $1 or is it a percentage?
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor, if it's more than 10% over, that gives it a red traffic light.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, councillors. We have a mover, we have a seconder. Councillor, any objections? No? All in favour? Carried. Councillors, 16 is other reports, of which there are none. Item 17, notices of motion. Councillor Berry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, you have in front of you the motion that I'd like to see put up. So it's that Council allocate a second free green waste month for the month of May 2023, so in the financial year of 2022-23, per tenement to drop off green waste at both Balan and Bacchus Marsh transfer stations. 2, to advertise the second free Green Waste Month for May 2023 on Council's website and social media sites during the month of April 2023. And 3, confirm that rates notice must be presented at the transfer stations to be eligible for the second free Green Waste Month, May 2023. And the rationale, you'll see in front of you, residents have been contacting me to ask for another free Green Waste Month, as the first free Green Waste Month in this financial period was during a period of heavy rains. Grass continued to grow out of control and left residents with as much green waste as had accumulated prior to the first green waste drop-off. The uptake for the first Green Waste Month this financial year, 2022-23, was smaller than anticipated, utilising less than 50% of the budget allocated for that free green waste drop-off. The surplus of budget means that there is capacity to hold a second free Green Waste Month this financial year in May 2023, and this second free Green Waste Month would assist with fire prevention in the Moorabool Shire. I commend this motion to Council. Just like to add to, emergency fire events can start quickly and threaten you within minutes. Preparing for a fire can take a lengthy period with all residents, whether residential or farm. The danger of residential fires is very real. The extra month of participation, particularly after the rains the Shire has endured, will prevent a fire emergency. As I said before, I have received a few calls from residents requiring some more assistance in removing their green waste. So there it is on the table, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. So we have a notice of motion moved by Councillor Berry. Any questions for Councillor Berry? So Councillor Sullivan, then Councillor Minari.
No, I had a question, if I may.
No,
it's just on process. This sort of directs Council to do it. Don't we normally, as a matter of fact, ask for a report to come back to Council on these things?
List. Mr CEO.
Through the chair, that's one thing we have done in the past. Exactly, is I assume this is because the short notice regarding an extra green waste. But what we have historically done is, with these kind of items, is a report has come back, the council gets an indication of what the cost would be, and then council would make a decision. So if you look at the previous motions, that's probably what we have done.
For a report generally?
Generally speaking, yes. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Minari, then Councillor Tatchell.
My question was just about officers in regards to the last time we did the Green Waste Month. Did manager and transfer station take it as well?
Mr Jeffrey.
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, all transfer stations received green waste.
Oh, yeah, so I would just like it noted, if possible, for manager to be added, if that's possible. If Councillor Berry is okay with that?
Yep, I'm okay with that, thank you.
Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I get the question, or I get the amount that went into these wastings in terms of the uptake at 50%. When this started, there was a guesstimate in terms of the funding for this from a budgetary point of view. So if it wasn't taken up totally and was taken at 50%, it should come back to council, because that was the very first time that we actually set a guesstimate in terms of the budget. And the second thing is, in consideration that they do take your rate notice at every time you go there with the green waste on a cubic metre basis, there should be a record of how many people uptook that in terms of Balan, Bacchus Marsh and Manhattan or Gordon or whoever, anyone from the Shire really. So I think that's a more important number to know Because if it's somewhere around what we normally have with these things, sub 20%, it's a very expensive process for a minority result. So I think I'd like to know all those numbers before we agree to just giving the money away, on the basis it was just a guesstimate to start with. So do we have that answer? Are those rate notices added up, or do we know who takes this up? Or?
Mr Jeffrey?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, the number of visitations is recorded. I can't recall exact numbers, like 1,800 or something during November. Where they come from, I'd have to take that on notice whether we record the locality that all those visitations came from.
Thank you. Subsequent, Mr Tatchell?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, on the basis it was 1,800 out of 30,000+. That's a fairly low take-up in percentage terms. But I think we need to see that figure and then say, do we need to reset the budget, or is it a viable option? So otherwise, we are certainly paying a lot of money for a minority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. So, councillors, I'm in your hands. Councillor, we have unless there's any further questions.
I'm happy to second the motion.
Councillors, we have Councillor Berry moved the motion. Seconded Councillor Dudzik. Councillor, any objections? Hands up, please. One. All in favour? Hands up.
There was an objection.
Point of order.
Mr Mayor, we had an objection. So
Councillor Berry, I'll hand over to you to debate the motion, please.
Yeah, thank you. As I said before, and listening to everybody's reasoning, I think that the uptake wasn't great. There was a budget figure that was put on to the residents to be able to visit and take their green waste month and utilise it. People that I had spoken to did not hear about the green waste. Those that phoned me who had utilised it didn't get enough time in the green waste month period because of the excess rains on their properties, the larger property phone calls in particular, didn't get enough time to utilise it. So with the extra rain occurring, had a whole lot of green waste occurring as they were visiting the transfer stations at the same time. And I really pushed forward that the uptake wasn't that great, and would mean a budget breakout for this one would not occur. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Tatchell.
I think the councillor just made my argument, but on the basis that there hasn't been enough take-up. The reality is it's somewhere around 7%. And one thing I do know is you keep going down the same street, you usually end up at the same place. So if we do it twice, even if we had a larger take-up, it would still not pass the pub test in terms of the cost. And whilst I accept that I'm not against the idea of green waste, I think green waste is a good thing. I think making a decision tonight on ratepayers' money, because that's what it is, we're basically just using ratepayers' money to make a decision based on probably some pretty flimsy data. At best, I'd be deferring this until we had the information and a report back. But no, I can't agree with Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor Dudzik.
During the Green Waste Month, it was pouring and it was very difficult to do any gardening or actually even cut your grass because we get a lot of green waste where I live, and I tell you it was raining so much you didn't want to go outside. So it was a very bad month to actually pick as our Green Waste Month because of the unusual rains that we had. It was a small take-up, and we still have people who have their green waste sitting there, and it is actually a fire risk for many people to have their green waste sitting there. And so I believe it is a good idea to allow them a second chance. we can review it next year, but I don't think enough people could possibly do their green waste because it was torrential rain and no one even wanted to set out their front door.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Councillors, I'll invite any other councillors to speak for or against the motion. Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just going to add that during that period I had a lot of positive feedback in response to the Green Free Waste Month. I think I've got that around the wrong way, but anyway. I think it's positive for council. It's good for council to show that we're thinking of the community in this way, especially after the winter we had. It was a very challenging winter. And I feel that I'd be supporting one more go. It's still in a trial basis. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against the motion? No? Councillor Berry, I invite you to close debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate that emergencies can start quickly and threaten you within minutes, and particularly fires. Those residents that had contacted me were a little bit concerned about that situation. Some even mentioned that there were queues there, so it's really hard to find that only 7% uptake. I think you mentioned, Councillor Tatchell. And there were lines early in the morning when the gates opened, and some were sent home on circumstances to return the next day because the transfer stations were overloaded or needed to reorganise themselves. So, yeah, I commend the motion to cancel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. So, councillors, we have a motion that's been moved by Councillor Berry and seconded by Councillor Dudzik. Council, all in favour? Councillors, all in favour? Hands up high. Councillor, 3 councillors. All against? Councillors, motion's lost. Item 18, notices of rescission, of which there are none. Item 19 is the Mayor's report, which has been tabled. Celeste, do I move this or I invite someone to move it? Councillors, I invite someone to move the Mayor's report. It's been a busy month, as you can see. Move Councillor Tatchell, seconded Councillor Minari. Any objections? All in favour? Carried. Item 20, councillors, is councillors' reports. I'll start to my left. Councillor Sullivan.
No councillor reports, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Minari.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Quite a busy month. We visited the Blackwood Township earlier in the month to catch up for coffee with the councillor, and it was a great turnout. I think Blackwood really enjoyed seeing us there and just having that relaxed feel in terms of catching up with their councillor. At the same time, just shortly afterwards, we attended the launch of the Barry's Reef Avenue of Honour restoration project, driven by the Bland RSL, which was a wonderful day, and it was just, yeah, it was quite heavily attended, which was great to see. And last week I attended the Bland Historical Society annual general meeting, and also very well attended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari. Councillor Tatchell.
No, nothing to report, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Berry.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. On the 10th of February, I attended the Peri-Urban Councils Victoria meeting where there was a new chair. There was an election, a new chair was elected. It was Councillor Michael Leaney from Baw, and I am now the deputy chair. Councillor Michael Leaney visited our shire yesterday and enjoyed a 4-hour tour with the CEO, Derek Madden, and was pleasantly surprised at all the construction occurring in our shire. Attended the coffee with the councillor in Blackwood, with the Mayor and Councillor Ali Minari. I would say successful, as we were all kept busy in the time allotted. So suggestion to continue those for Blackwood, it was very successful. Then joined the Mayor and Councillor Ali Minari, Sam Ray, Member for Hawke, Minister Marianne Thomas at the Blackwood Community Hall for a launch of the Balan RSL sub-branch Barry's Reef Restoration Project. Pippa, one of the local residents of Barry's Reef as MC and as a leader on this project, is to be praised for all her work. The CDWA at that event, the local ladies did a fantastic job serving us with homemade treats for afternoon tea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Dudzik.
No council report.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, on last Friday, along with Councillor Berry, I attended the WAC, our Western Highway Action Group. We had a presentation from DOT, who basically said they've done the majority of the repair works on the Western Highway that they'll be doing in the short term, although there are some to come, and I did hit a pothole coming home, so hopefully that might be one of the ones that's to come. But what I did take from the meeting, Mr Mayor, and thanks for the invite in your absence, was there's probably a real opportunity for that group to expand in terms of reference to be a Western Corridor Action Committee, now that the Ballarat Rail Action Committee seems to have fallen over. I think there's a great opportunity there, considering that those people deal with rail and transport, most of the group. So just something for your future consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. That was a worthwhile suggestion and certainly one that we can follow up and look further into. Councillors, I have a couple of quick ones. I also thank Councillor Minari and Councillor Berry for attending the Coffee with the Councillor session up at Blackwood. It was fantastic to see the response from the community and give the community the opportunity for engagement. It was notable that there were people that travelled from right throughout the Shire to have the opportunity to engage with councillors. So it's certainly something we're interested in and will be committed to spreading further throughout the council. I also wanted to make the note of the passing of Mr Erwin Gillespie, who recently passed away in Bacchus Marsh. Erwin was a well-known businessman in Bacchus Marsh for many, many years. He employed a lot of local workers, but he was also very well renowned for his generosity to community and community groups and his support of local community groups and supporting groups. And on Friday, a funeral service was held for him in the Bacchus Marsh Public Hall, and I think it was one of the biggest funerals in Bacchus Marsh in recent history. So I think it should be noted it was a sad passing, and he certainly got the send-off that he would have, he deserved. The final thing I just want to mention in council reports is I spoke to the General Manager of Community Strengthening earlier. I had a question come up during the week, and I've asked Lee McCallum to take this on notice. Council recently introduced, in the most recent years, introduced a fantastic booking system which allowed residents and community groups to book council reserves and facilities. When I say reserves and facilities, it can be aspects of reserves such as tennis courts or cricket nets and sporting ovals for use on certain nights and between certain hours. And members of the community could go in and look and see when these reserves or portions of reserves was available. So the question I have, and it was raised with me for Lee to look into, please, is can such a system be rolled out to our community asset groups or community advisory committees, I beg your pardon, to see when members of the public can use that, and the CAC committees can look at it, rolling it out so that members can look up online when those facilities may be available to be booking. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor, we can certainly investigate the current system that is available for online bookings. I will take that one on notice and we'll do some further exploration on the functionality of that particular platform for that purpose.
Thank you. Councillors, item 21, urgent business. Any urgent business, councillors?
No urgent business, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Sullivan? No. Councillor Minari?
No urgent business, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tatchell?
No urgent business, but I do have a question.
Councillor Tatchell?
Mr Mayor, on the basis that, far be it for us to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but if we, the question I suppose will be that in consideration that the motion that Councillor Berry put up was lost in terms of being able to put a second green waste in, would it be prevalent, or does it exclude the ability of Councillor Berry to put up a motion that asks for a report that then could lead to a second green waste, so that it's not totally lost? Should the opportunity be there? So, and can we do that on the basis that we've already taken it off the table?
I stand to be corrected, but my understanding would be if it was voted to be accepted as urgent business, it could be...
Oh, that wasn't the question. That was just a question about whether the motion...
Okay, so...
Yeah.
Well, we're doing urgent business at the moment. I'll look to the CEO for advice on this matter.
Through the Chair, I think it's a report we need to prepare anyway, so I'm happy to take that on board and prepare that report. I think it's a report we need to do anyway to give the councillors an indication of the take-up rates and any other data that we did collect through that process. So I'm happy to just do that.
So on that basis, Mr Mayor, I think it would be appropriate that we allow Councillor Berry the opportunity to put that back up. That nobody else does, so it gives you an opportunity to revisit that. I think that would be a fair and reasonable thing to do.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, noted, and thank you, Councillor Tatchell, and thank you, Mr CEO. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I didn't have any urgent business. However, I now do, thanks to Councillor Tatchell. I'd like to put that up for motion that a report is made for the general take-up of the Green Waste month that was had last November and bring it back to Council.
So my understanding is we don't need to note that as an urgent business because it's been done. Is that correct, Mr CEO?
Through the Chair, basically I'm saying that that's what we'll do, so we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
It's not going to be registered as a motion, but I'm giving you our commitment that we will get that report done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Dudzik.
No urgent business.
Councillor Edwards.
No urgent business, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. I also have no urgent business. So, councillors, the next session is the closed session of the meeting to the public. So I ask for someone to move that council moves to confidential. Councillor Minari, second to Councillor Tatchell. All in favour? Carried. Yes, and we'll have a 5-minute break, councillors.